Year 10 and 11, welcome to your revision on the poem Poppies by Weir in preparation for your AQA English Literature Poetry exam. The poem. The first thing we need to do when reading and attempting to analyse a poem is understand what the poem is about before we look at structure and at language. So the poem. 3 days before Armistice Sunday, and poppies had already been placed on individual war graves. Before you left, I pinned one onto your lapel, crimped petals, spasms of paper red, disrupting a blockade of yellow bias binding around your blazer. Sellotape bandaged round my hand, I rounded up as many white cat hairs as I could, smoothed down your shirt's upturned collar, steeled the softening of my face. I wanted to graze my nose across the tip of your nose, play at being Eskimos like we did when you were little. I resisted the impulse to run my fingers through the gelled black thorns of your hair. All my words flattened, rolled, turned into felt, slowly melting. I was brave as I walked with you to the front door, threw it open, the world overflowing like a treasure chest. A split second and you were away, intoxicated. After you'd gone, I went into your bedroom, released a songbird from its cage. Later, a single dove flew from the pear tree, and this is where it has led me, skirting the churchyard walls, my stomach busy making tucks, darts, pleats, hatless, without a winter coat or reinforcements of scarf, gloves. On reaching the top of the hill, I traced the inscriptions on the war memorial, leaned against it like a wishbone. The dove pulled freely against the sky, an ornamental stitch. I listened, hoping to hear your playground voice catching on the wind. So what is the poem about? The poem is set in the present day, but reaches right back to the beginning of the poppy date tradition. Armistice Sunday began as a way of marking the end of the First World War in 1918. It was set up so people could remember the hundreds and thousands of ordinary men who had been killed in the First World War. Today the event is used to remember soldiers of all wars who have died since then. When Poppies was written, British soldiers were still dying in wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And as a way of trying to understand the suffering that deaths caused, the Poet Laureate at the time, Carol Ann Duffy, asked a number of writers to compose poems, and this included Jane Weir. So more specifically in relation to the poem Poppies, the poem is about a mother who describes her son leaving home to fight in the army. She feels sad, lonely and worried for his safety. She describes helping him smarten his uniform. When he leaves, she goes to places that remind her of him. She searches desperately for him. If we begin our analysis with structure, the poem uses 4 irregular stanzas. We need to be thinking about why that is and what that adds to our interpretation. The poem uses free verse, enjambment, and then for your extra challenge, so your A and your A star students, your level 8, your level 9s, the poem uses, I'm never going to be able to pronounce it, segere. I got there, which is a break in the rhythm. Again, we need to be thinking about why. Make sure that when you're making your notes on this video that you get the spelling right, because as I say, my pronunciation of that word is horrendous. Okay, so why use these devices? So, the poem uses 4 irregular stanzas, which represents the mother's experience and the change in her emotions. How she is not prepared for her son to leave, and the emotions she feels when he has left. Okay? The regular stanzas also represent the strict routine the military use, and that her son has gone to this lifestyle where he has to follow orders. And it's very strict and it's very rigid, and the structure shows that. The free verse obviously highlights the freedom that the son wants, because remember, the son wants to go out and experience the big wide world, which we'll come to later when we look at language devices. So the free verse indicates the freedom that he longs for, the independence he longs for as an adult. And it also represents the mother feeling lost without her son. Okay? The use of enjambment is the cycle of children leaving home, because it's always going to happen, that natural cycle that a child will grow up and leave. A child will grow up and leave. So you've got that there. It also represents the inability of the mother to control her emotions. And then finally, the caesura, the breaks in the rhythm. We've got to be asking ourselves why. The mother is trying to remain calm and composed, but ultimately she keeps breaking down. So you've got a mixture of the breaks in the breaks in the rhythm, the caesura and the enjambment, which is the mother attempting to stay calm, but unfortunately breaking down because she is overwhelmed. A little bit more on structure. There is a non-chronological order used. It shows that the mother is remembering the past. The poet also uses the past and the present tense. So that shows us that the past tense are the memories the mother has. The present tense is that she cannot move on. She is unable to move on from the experience of letting her son go to war. And finally there you've got a mixture of the first and the second person. You can probably put that in language, your choice. Her last memory of her son and then visiting the memorial. There is a shift in time to show the different ways she remembers him and how she grieves. She speaks directly to him as if trying to keep his memory alive. So you've got the mixture of her remembering him, the last time she sees him when he's leaving the door and she's smarting in his uniform, and also her visiting his memorial. So she's trying to hold on to this memory of him and keep him alive, isn't she? Naturally, we can assume if she's at the memorial that he has died. What types of language does the poet use then? We have military language in words such as blockade and reinforcements, obviously because the subject matter is about war and it's reminding us that the son is leaving to go to war. We've got metaphors that suggest conflict, bandaged around my hand. And we've also got language to evoke colour and texture, such as spasms of paper red. But I'm going to go into a lot of detail now when I go through each stanza. So don't forget to pause the video and make notes where you see fit. So we're going to start our analysis of language in depth now. Stanza 1 of the poem. 3 days before Armistice Sunday, and poppies had already been placed on individual war graves. Before you left, I pinned one onto your lapel. Crimped petals, spasms of paper red, disrupting a blockade of yellow bias binding around your blazer. So straight away, Armistice Sunday sets up the tone of the poem, and we know what Armistice Sunday is about. Remembering soldiers, we wear the poppies. So straight away, the tone of the poem is set up, and we know the poem is going to be serious, sombre, and we would expect a theme of bravery to run through here, because obviously our soldiers are massively respected, and that's why we remember them every year in this way. Poppies had already been placed on individual war graves. Well, straight away we've got imagery. The imagery of the poppies. Again, our tone there is remembrance. It is also death, and it is respect. Now, if you look, the poppies had already been placed on individual war graves. The adverb already shows us the massive respect people have, because people are placing poppies there even before Armistice Sunday. So this idea of respect and remembrance is used within the first couple of lines of the poem. Individual war grave shows us that not only do we remember the army as a collective force, but that it is more poignant to remember individuals who have given up their lives. Naturally, when we're talking about emotive language, war is emotive, poppies is emotive, and graves is emotive. Remember, I said earlier why the poem was written. And it's to try and help us understand those people who have lost someone. So naturally we would have emotive language here, so the reader feels an emotional response. Before you left, I pinned one onto your lapel. Now we've got the direct pronoun you. She directly addresses her son. It is as if she is talking to her son. Now when we mix that with a personal pronoun I, it is even more emotive, because we connect to her. We also become the son. It's as if she is talking to us before you left. And then we feel connected to her. Therefore, we attempt to feel the loss that she's felt. Now, remember, she uses the direct pronoun you when she's speaking to her son, because she is desperate to keep his memory alive and she doesn't want to forget him. I pinned one onto your lapel, crimped petals, spasms of paper red. Crimped petals. So the petals of the poppy are already ruined, and that is a massive example of foreshadowing. It's almost predicting his death. The idea that the poppy's ruined possibly implies that he himself will become ruined, ruined emotionally, and then naturally, because he dies, absolutely ruined physically. So the crimped petals, it's quite a sad image that the poppy has been ruined. The memory of her son, to an extent, has been ruined. Spasms of paper red. Look at that word, spasms. It's uncomfortable and it's painful, and therefore we begin to feel the mother's pain at having lost her son and having let him go. Red, we know the adjective red has massive connotations of blood, of death, of danger. So the colour red there does connotate all of those things. And remember, poppies are red, so we are constantly reminded of blood and death, and therefore, once again, it's foreshadowing in the sense that her son ends up in that way, doesn't he? Because he ends up dead. Disrupting a blockade of yellow bias binding around your blazer. So obviously around the blazer there's like a yellow lining. We've got the alliteration of the blockade of yellow bias binding around your blazer. The alliteration, I think, adds to this desperation and this longing that the mother has of trying to keep this memory fresh, keep this memory alive, which is probably why she speaks directly as if he's still there. You know, before you left, I pinned as if she's having a conversation to try and keep him alive. Stanza 2. Sellotape bandaged around my hand, I rounded up as many white cat hairs as I could, smoothed down your shirt's upturned collar, steeled the softening of my face. I wanted to graze my nose across the tip of your nose, play at being Eskimos like we did when you were little. I resisted the impulse to run my fingers through the gelled black thorns of your hair. All my words flattened, rolled, turned into felt. So straight away she removes the cat hair from his suit, doesn't she? So a protective mother. But more importantly, we've got the metaphor of sellotape bandaged around my hand. Now, bandaged obviously refers to an injury and a painful death, perhaps. So once again, we take this metaphorical image and we apply it to the son, and have an image of him being hurt in battle and naturally dying. It's again a military terms. That's the subject matter of the poem. You could also argue that the mother uses military terms in her description because she can't let go of the fact that she let him go to war, and obviously this is the place that he has died. Smooth down your shirt's upturned collar, steeled the softening of my face. Again, protective mother, so she gets all the cat hairs off him and she sorts out his collar. Steeled the softening of my face is a metaphor, and it shows us that through the idea of steel, she's trying her best to be strong and brave in front of her son. She doesn't want to get emotional when he's leaving, because she doesn't want to make the situation worse. So she tries to be strong, and that is the metaphor, steeled the softening of my face. I wanted to graze my nose across the tip of your nose, play at being Eskimos like we did when you were little. So we have two memories here, him leaving home and him being a child. We are reminded of his innocence through the adjective little and the verb playing. She wants to give him an Eskimo kiss, obviously, nose to nose, like we did when we were little, but naturally she's not going to do that because he's a grown man. So we have an innocent image there of the Eskimo kiss, and obviously the adjective little shows us that she is clinging on to this idea of her innocent little boy. She doesn't want to forget that. I resisted the impulse to run my fingers through the gelled black thorns of your hair. Once again, metaphor. Black thorns of your hair. He's prickly towards... He's not affectionate towards the mother as he's grown up. He's become a man. And he's not really affectionate towards her. So she wants to touch his hair, obviously, and she resists because she knows that he won't take kindly to that. All my words flattened, rolled and turned into felt. Again, another metaphor. all my words flattened, rolled and turned into felt. She tries to fight off her emotions, but she can't. And felt is something quite weak, isn't it? Because you can fold it and you can put it, like you can put it into different shapes. So what happens is her words become felt because she is breaking down and her emotions are coming through, and she is becoming weak at the prospect of him leaving. And stanza 3, slowly melting. Again, if we lead on from the stanza that was just above that, we had that her words were turning into felt and slowly melting. So again, it's metaphorical, and it shows us that the mother is breaking down. The mother is now weak because her son has left. I was brave as I walked with you. I did tell you that bravery would be a theme here, especially when we're talking about Armistice Sunday and all the poppies. So we actually get the word brave there. Massive emotive language. She feels brave that she has let him go. And obviously the double meaning of that is that he is brave because he's gone to war. As I walked with you to the front door, threw it open, the world overflowing like a treasure chest. Massive simile. And this is what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about structure. So the simile like a treasure chest. He wants to experience the world. And he thinks, as we hear this image of a treasure chest, he thinks it's going to be amazing. And he thinks he's going to discover new and wonderful things. Quite naively, obviously, that isn't the case, unfortunately. A split second and you were away, intoxicated. Now, intoxicated, he's excited about being independent, isn't he? He's intoxicated by the idea that he's going to go out there and experience the big wide world on his own. Again, there's an irony there that doesn't really happen, and that again is a sad thought for the reader. After you'd gone, I went into your bedroom. So again, remember, she's talking to the son here. Released a songbird from its cage. Huge image of the songbird. So the songbird is an image of freedom. Released a songbird from its cage. And it's the idea, and it links back to our free verse, that he has become free and independent of his mother and of the protection of his parents to go to war. He's become a man. And then straight under that, we have another huge symbol. Later, a single dove flew from the pear tree, and this is where it has led me. Now, the dove is a symbol of innocence. And there again, we have this massive idea of the son being innocent and being obviously killed, but her clinging on to the idea that it is still her little boy, it is still her innocent child. And through the dove, we get that massive, massive image and massive idea. This is where it has led me, skirting the churchyard walls. Right, here we go. My stomach busy making tucks, darts, pleats, hatless. Metaphor to describe her stomach there. My stomach busy making tucks, darts, pleats, hatless. She is anxious, emotional and worried, and her stomach is jumping all over, almost like a gymnastics person, you know, that they do tucks and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Because she feels physically sick at the thought that he's gone. She's obviously worried for his safety, and she feels anxious and ill. And then we hear that she doesn't have her winter coat on, she doesn't have a scarf, and she doesn't have gloves. She feels cold when she hears the news that he has died, obviously. And I think we can extend that further to say that she will feel cold for the rest of her life now that she has lost her son. And finally, stanza 4. On reaching the top of the hill, I traced the inscriptions on the war memorial, leaned against it like a wishbone. The dove pulled freely against the sky, an ornamental stitch. I listened, hoping to hear your playground voice catching on the wind. Right, so the hill in line, the top of that line there, is metaphorical. It represents the struggle that she has since her son has died. Now she has to walk to the top of a hill to get to his war memorial. It is the metaphorical struggle of living without her son every single day. You know, that cliched saying, it's an uphill struggle, and that is exactly what her life has become now that her son has died. There, obviously, she feels grief as she traces his name. I traced the inscriptions on the war memorial, so you can imagine her putting her fingers in the inscription there because she feels grief and, this idea that she longs to touch him again. Leaned against it like a wishbone. We know that that's a simile. We know that wishbones are fragile and easy to snap, and therefore this simile presents us with a broken woman. She is fragile, she is broken, she is grief-stricken and feels despair. The dove pulled freely against the sky. Again, we've got that image of the dove, the image of innocence. Now, earlier we had the caged bird being released, and now the dove is flying freely. Look at the adverb, freely. Her son is dead. He is free of the war and of the horrors of war. But remember, the massive theme there is innocence. She has lost her innocent child. I listened, hoping, massive verb, hoping to hear your playground voice catching on the wind. She is hoping to hear him, but obviously this is pointless and futile because she won't. So again, we finish with the image of innocence and the idea of a playground. So when we're talking about her mixing memories up, we finish, I think quite importantly, with the image of the son as a child in a playground. And remember, that is the image she most cherishes, him as an innocent child, and she's desperate to hear his voice. I think hoping is a massive emotive word there. So imagery is massive in this poem, and your most powerful images are the dove, which represents innocence, the idea of the playground, which represents innocence, the Eskimo kisses, again the innocent little child. And then also we have the songbird who is released and free, Poppies, Armistice Sunday and Bandaged, which are war and military images. I hope you found this video useful. Obviously, if you go back and pause it and make notes and things, I do have a tendency to talk very quickly. If you would like any more of my videos, just type Stacey Reay into YouTube. That's Stacey, and Reay is Reay. Thank you for listening, and good luck in your poetry exam.